Hi artists, this is Mrs. Spooner. Welcome back to the studio. So today, while Clover's been hanging out inside, I've been outside, observing the birds. To observe means to carefully inspect something for all of its detail. In today's lesson, we're going to be answering these two questions. First, what does it mean when an artist uses observation to get the images and inspiration for their artwork? And second, how can you create a drawing using the basic lines and shapes you observe in an image? We're going to watch this short video on an artist named John James Audubon.
At the age of 18, John James Audubon left his home in France and sailed for America. As an artist, he became fascinated with the birds of North America, telling a friend, "There are so many wonderful colors, so many amazing patterns. I would like to paint them all." In the early 1800s, he was determined to illustrate all the birds of North America, but his journey had many setbacks. Once, after returning from a long trip, he discovered that rats had eaten his entire collection of over 200 drawings. After weeks of depression, Audubon took to the field again, determined to redo the drawings he'd lost and to add new ones.
Wow, just think about how brave he must have been. He was only a young man and he set out into the wilderness with the goal to find every species of bird he could in North America. In this slide, we see a portrait of the artist on the left. You can see he was born in 1785 and he died in 1851. That was a very long time ago. Think about how different North America must have looked back then. There would have been no roads or streets. Houses wouldn't have looked like ours do today. No stores to go to. It took a lot of courage for him to go into the wilderness and observe the birds the way that he did. On the right, you can see some of his artwork. Each bird is drawn to scale, which means the size that the bird is in real life is the size that he drew it on the paper. So you can imagine for a small bird like a blue jay, it wouldn't take a very big sheet of paper. But if you had a bird as big as a hawk or an eagle, you would need a really big sheet of paper. I have one more video to share with you today.
When the birds of America first began to appear in 1827, it was a revelation. No one had seen anything like this before. A book this size, a book with such vivid depictions of birds in their natural context. After that, no natural history artist could ever go back to the old model of working in museums with taxidermied specimens. Artists had to go out into the field. John James Audubon is known through the eponymous Audubon Society. He was a great conservationist as well as a fantastic artist and ornithologist. He was born illegitimately in Haiti in 1785. He lived in France till about 17 when he came to the United States. Audubon wasn't the first great ornithological artist, but when you look at those earlier works from the 16th, 17th, 18th century, the birds look dead. And that's because the artists were working from stuffed specimens in cabinets and museums, sometimes put into unnatural poses and devoid of any environment or context. What Audubon did was to depict the birds as they were in their habitats. He studied the birds carefully. He actually devised his own method of wiring the birds into a pose that he had observed in the field. He also developed a grid pattern for his paper, like graph paper, so he could keep the proportions right. He showed the shrubbery or ground or trees where they lived. He showed the things that they fed on. In 1820, he decided to dedicate his life to trying to paint every single species of bird in the United States. Audubon really wanted to turn this private passion into a commercial work, and he made the extraordinary decision that he was going to publish every bird at its natural size. For cardinals, pigeons, Baltimore Orioles, no issue. But when you're talking about whooping cranes and flamingos and eagles, that needed a particular manufacturer of paper. He went to England and hired the James Watman Company to produce these gigantic sheets of paper, almost 40 by 30 inches. The size of Audubon's book was absolutely unprecedented. You have this monumental work of 4 volumes that stand almost 4 feet high, with 435 sheets of paper engraved aquatints depicting every bird that he could find. This was not a book that he was going to complete and send to bookstores. This was a work that he worked on for a couple of decades. And so, like many books at that period, it was sold by subscription and published over a period of years. The Birds of America is known worldwide as a great book, but it's more than that. It's a great work of art. It's a great work of writing, of literature. And although there's nothing anthropomorphized about Audubon's birds, he does show them as individuals. The whooping crane is delicately picking up a tiny little alligator who doesn't know what fate is about to befall him. And I always feel when you look at that pair of passenger pigeons, you're looking at 2 birds that really knew each other. The flamingo. It was just so audacious to think that you could fit a bird like that at life size into a book. Audubon does cheat a little bit by having the neck go all the way down and then the head come back up in a U, and this startling scarlet red of the flamingo. That, I think, is Audubon's achievement in a single play. Between 175 and 200 sets were produced. Our best guess now is that there are 119 complete or largely complete sets extant. Of the 119 sets that survive, the vast majority are in permanent institutional homes. There are 15 that are privately owned, including the one that we're offering in December. This copy was subscribed for by the Yorkshire Philosophical Society. It survived in wonderful condition because the book was maintained, not overhandled. Almost 2 centuries later, the book is still revered as an icon. It's just...
Okay, I'm going to stop the video right there. So think about how incredible. Hundreds of years ago, he journeyed into the wilderness and observed the birds how they were in their natural habitat. Today, if we want to know what an animal or bird or anything for that matter looks like, we can look it up on the internet. But hundreds of years ago, before it existed, people didn't know what things look like unless it was printed in a book or from a drawing or a painting. So John James Audubon brought brought the bird world to life for people all around the world through his artwork. Here we see one of his paintings of the snowy owl. On the right, there's a close-up. This slide shows us his art of his painting of the cardinal. The male cardinal is on the top and the female cardinal is seen underneath. On the right is a detail, a close-up of the image. Now it's your turn. For this lesson, I'm going to be giving you two options. The first option on the left is to draw a winter cardinal, as you see here. For this project, you can use any supplies you have on hand: crayons, colored pencils, markers. If you want to collage or use watercolor, that is completely up to you. In my painting on the left, I chose to do watercolor this time, but again, you can use whatever you have on hand. Option 2 is to do a pencil sketch of the snowy owl. After you view this lesson, you can click on the link that I also share below. It's a how-to, a step-by-step of drawing the snowy owl, breaking each step down into basic shapes and lines. So you will take your pick. Should you choose to do option 1, this is how you will begin.
This is Mrs. Spooner. Today we're going to be drawing a winter cardinal. So I want you to grab whatever paper you have on hand. You can use notebook paper if you don't have a sheet of white paper or construction paper. It's completely up to you. It's best to start with a pencil, but I'm going to draw with this Sharpie marker so that you're able to see it better. So the first thing that we're going to do is draw the eye. And then I'm going to draw the beak. Cardinals eat mainly nuts and seeds, so they have short, stout beaks. Now I'm going to draw the head, and the crest is the little tuft of feathers that are at the top of its head that kind of stick out. Now I'm going to draw it down its back. And you can pause the video as we go along if you need to. I'm left-handed, so I know my hand probably gets in the way sometimes. And I'm going to curve my line back around like that. Right, now I'm going to come back here under the beak, and I'm going to wrap this around to draw the under part of the belly. Nice. Now, as you can see over here, I need the tail. I'm going to swoop out like that. I'm going to make kind of a zigzaggy, jagged sort of a line right there, because it wouldn't be perfectly straight, right? Now I'm going to draw some of these longer feathers that are on the bird's wings. I'm going to do another wavy, kind of a zigzaggy line. And then I'm going to draw some of the individual feathers. I'm going to do the same thing with the tail. Cardinals have black feathers around their beak and their eye. So I'm going to draw a shape that goes from the forehead to the eye and down. So this part of my cardinal would be black, and the rest of the bird is red. I'm going to draw some three little right there. Nice. I'm sure you did a wonderful job. Okay, now for the background. I'm going to give you a few options. So if you'd like, you can just draw some branches if you prefer to just stick with a nature scene. Remember, branches kind of go off in a Y shape, right? They split off like that. And in the winter time, after the leaves have fallen off of most trees, a holly tree still has its leaves. And a holly leaf kind of looks like this. So I'm going to draw a line for the center. It has sort of a scalloped edge. So kind of like a bunch of U shapes next to each other. So you can make as many leaves on your branches as you'd like. Now, if you'd like to draw a birdhouse for your cardinal, let's say you feel like getting a little fancy and being a little creative with patterns, you can create a birdhouse for your cardinal. Let's see, and like the one over here, I put it on a pole, but you could make it look like your birdhouse is on the trunk of a tree if you'd like. Put a roof on it. A hole. The bird would go inside. And then you can design your birdhouse any way you want. Any kind of pattern. It's completely up to you. When you color it, I always like to give you a lot of options because I know.
Okay, artists. So now it's going to be your turn. Once again, you can choose to do option 1 and draw the winter cardinal scene, or you can choose option 2. The link will be posted below this lesson. In option 2, you would be drawing the snow owl step by step, breaking it down into basic shapes and shading with a pencil. So either would be wonderful for this lesson. Option 1, the cardinal, or option 2, the snowy owl. Clover and I are just going to be hanging out, cozied up by the fire, and we can't wait to see the beautiful artwork that you create. Bye!